Oliver, a plump orange tabby with a crooked bow tie and a nervous twitch in his tail, sat at the table, paws fidgeting with a wilted daisy. Across from him, Luna, a sleek gray feline with eyes as sharp as the crescent moon above, stared with the cool detachment of a cat who always knew exactly what she wanted and exactly how to get it. So, do you believe in 9 lives too? Oliver's voice cracked, barely audible over the haunting violin. Luna's whiskers twitched, a smirk barely brushing her lips. Depends. Are you hoping for another chance after tonight? Oliver felt the air leave his lungs. He tried to laugh it off, but the sound came out like a strangled cough. His gaze darted to the alley below, and that's when he saw him, a hulking shadow slinking from the darkness, his scars catching the moonlight. The rival tomcat, Gizzer. His ears lay flat, and his eyes gleamed with the cold fire of a cat who'd fought for every scrap of his life and wasn't about to give up the next one easily. Luna's gaze sharpened, her voice dropping to a low whisper. You didn't tell me you knew him. Oliver's stomach churned. He hadn't meant for this. Not tonight. Not when he'd finally gathered the courage to ask Luna out, to share a quiet meal, maybe even brush tails under the candlelight. But there he was, Razor stalking closer, the violin's wail rising like a siren. The air grew heavy with tension, a storm barely contained. Luna, I can explain, Oliver stammered, but the words died in his throat as Razor leaped onto the wall, claws clicking against the bricks. The candles flickered dangerously, and the wilted daisy fell from Oliver's paw, drifting down into the alley like a tiny, defeated flag. You've got some nerve coming here, Razor hissed, his voice like sandpaper against steel. Oliver tried to stand tall, but his bow tie hung crooked. His fur puffed in all the wrong places. Luna's eyes never left him, half amused, half expectant, waiting to see if he would rise or fall. I just wanted a chance, Oliver said softly, almost to himself. Razor snarled, stepping forward, and for a moment it seemed he might strike. But then Luna's voice cut through the night, smooth and dangerous. Let him speak. Both toms froze. Even the violinist in the shadows paused, a single note hanging, trembling in the air. Luna's gaze fixed on Oliver, her voice like velvet and venom all at once. Tell me, Oliver, how many lives have you already lost? And are you ready to lose the next one for me? The world seemed to tilt. Oliver's heart thundered in his chest. He knew the answer. He had known it from the moment he saw Luna that first night, silhouetted against the moon, eyes daring him to follow. He had followed, and now here he was, dangling between a dream and a nightmare. I'd risk them all, he whispered, voice shaking. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Luna's tail twitched, ever so slightly, and the corner of her mouth curled not into a smile, but into something sharper, something that held the promise of danger, and the possibility of love. Razor let out a low growl but took a step back, his gaze dark and unreadable. The violin picked up again, slower now, softer, as if the music itself were holding its breath. Oliver exhaled, a shaky, relieved breath, but he knew this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning of a game where the stakes were higher than a single dinner, higher than a single life. As the candles flickered, casting shadows across the wall, Oliver felt the weight of the night settle on his shoulders. He glanced at Luna, her eyes half-lidded, her expression inscrutable, and for the first time, he wondered if he'd fallen into something far more dangerous than love. Oliver's paws felt numb, the warmth of the candlelight fading as a cold breeze swept across the rooftop. Razor's shadow slithered back into the darkness, but the growl in his throat lingered in the air, a reminder that this night was far from over. Luna's eyes never left Oliver's face, half curious, half predatory, as if she were toying with the idea of whether he was worth the trouble. Her tail flicked once, slowly, like the swing of a clock's pendulum counting down the seconds until everything fell apart. Oliver tried to steady his breathing, but his mind raced. Why was Razor here? Had Luna invited him? Was this all a twisted game, or had he just stumbled into something far bigger than a lonely heart on a rooftop dinner? Luna leaned in slightly, her voice soft but sharp enough to cut. "You're braver than I thought, Oliver. Or maybe just foolish." Oliver's throat tightened. "I just wanted to see you." Her whiskers twitched, a flicker of amusement dancing behind her guarded gaze. "And you thought you could have me without consequences?" A chill settled in his spine. He glanced at the crumpled daisy lying between them, a fragile symbol of everything he had hoped for and everything that seemed to be slipping away. The violinist's tune twisted into a darker melody, strings trembling like a warning, the notes rising and falling with the tension in the air. Before Oliver could answer, a sudden clatter echoed from the alley below a broken glass bottle. A hiss, then Razor's voice, low and venomous. "This isn't over." Luna's ears twitched, but she didn't look down. Instead, her gaze pinned Oliver in place, and she spoke with a quiet finality that sent a shiver through his fur. "You've started something tonight, Oliver. And if you're not careful, you'll find that in the world of cats, the price of love is higher than you think." The candles flickered violently, the flame licking higher for a moment before sputtering into smoke. Darkness swallowed the table, and Oliver was left staring into Luna's eyes, silver pools of mystery that held more secrets than he could ever hope to uncover. The rooftop seemed to pulse with unseen energy, the night itself holding its breath as if the story had only just begun. A soft meow echoed from behind a stack of crates. Another figure appeared smaller, with bright green eyes glowing in the shadows. A young stray, no more than a kitten, watching with wide-eyed wonder. Oliver's heart clenched. Was this another piece of the puzzle? Another player in this strange, tangled web of alleyway politics and rooftop romance? Luna stood gracefully, her silhouette elegant in the moonlight. "You still have a choice, Oliver," she murmured. "Stay, and you'll learn things you may not want to know. Run, and you'll always wonder what could have been." Oliver swallowed hard, paws trembling. The music rose again, the violin wailing like a cry in the night. The kitten's eyes glistened in the darkness. Razor's low growl vibrated through the bricks beneath Oliver's paws. And Luna watched, waiting, as if the fate of the night rested on his next move. Oliver's breath hitched, the weight of the moment crashing down on him like the cold wind. And as the first raindrops splattered onto the brick, he knew there was no going back. The rain fell in cold, silver streaks, hissing against the bricks, pooling around the crumpled daisy like the slow bleeding of a wound. Oliver stood frozen, the echoes of Luna's words ringing in his ears. "You still have a choice." But it didn't feel like a choice. Not really. His paws tingled with the weight of the moment, of everything he had risked by showing up tonight, of everything that could still slip through his claws if he turned away now. Luna's gaze didn't waver. Her fur glistened in the rain, a shimmering outline of something too beautiful, too dangerous to touch. The candle flames sputtered, guttering out one by one, until only the soft glow of the alley's distant neon sign remained, casting their faces in red and violet hues, like a warning and a promise tangled together. Oliver's breath came shallow, the night pressing against him from all sides. He glanced down at the kitten huddled by the crates, shivering in the rain, wide green eyes locked on him with a silent question. "Are you the hero of this story, or just another cat who runs when it gets too hard?" The violin's mournful tune swelled again, impossibly loud in the quiet of the night, strings vibrating like the tension in Oliver's chest. He looked at Luna. She tilted her head, a subtle, almost imperceptible nod, an invitation, a dare. And in that moment, Oliver made his choice. He took a step forward. His paw splashed into a puddle, but he didn't stop. Another step. Another. The rain soaked his fur, plastering it to his body, but he kept moving until he stood inches from Luna, close enough to feel the heat of her breath against the cold. The air between them buzzed, electric and raw, a space filled with 1,000 unspoken words and the ache of wanting something just out of reach. "I'm not running," Oliver whispered, voice shaking but certain. "Not this time." Luna's eyes flickered, something soft breaking through her mask of cool indifference. But before she could speak, Razor's voice sliced through the rain like a blade. Well, well. Looks like the little Tom does have claws after all. Oliver spun around. Razor had reappeared, eyes glowing in the dark like twin embers. He stalked forward, each step deliberate, the rain glinting off his scars. His gaze flicked to Luna, then back to Oliver, a bitter smile curling his lips. You think she's yours now? Razor sneered. You think love's a dinner date and a daisy? Oliver's breath caught, the weight of the night pressing down harder. But before he could speak, the kitten let out a tiny, desperate mewl, soft, but sharp enough to slice through the tension. All three cats turned. The kitten trembled, fur-soaked and matted, too small for this world, too young for this fight. And in that moment, Oliver saw it, the truth. This wasn't just about him and Luna. It wasn't just about love or pride or some fragile dream of romance. It was about the choices they all made. About the lives they shaped in the shadows, the futures they built or broke. Oliver took a slow step toward the kitten, then another, his paws careful, steady. The rain poured harder, drumming on the bricks, but he didn't flinch. He crouched low, nudging the kitten gently with his nose, a silent promise that he wasn't going to let him slip through the cracks. Behind him, Luna's voice came soft and strange, almost like a sigh. Maybe you are different. Razor's growl deepened, but he didn't move. Something in Oliver's quiet defiance seemed to freeze him in place. His claws half unsheathed, caught between attack and retreat. Oliver turned his head, locking eyes with Luna, her gaze dark and unreadable, but no longer cold. I don't know how many lives I have left, Oliver said, voice raw and real. But I'm not wasting any of them running away. The kitten mewed again, pressing into Oliver's side. Luna watched, the tension in her shoulders melting ever so slightly. Razor stood in the rain, the fire in his eyes dimming, not extinguished, but smoldering in a different way, as if recognizing, maybe for the first time, that this fight wasn't as simple as it seemed. The violinist's tune softened, the notes stretching long and low, like the rain itself. Oliver breathed in the scent of wet fur and city stone, the weight of the kitten against his side, the brush of Luna's tail flicking near his paw. The night hadn't ended in fireworks or fury, but in something quieter, something more dangerous. A fragile peace, balanced on the edge of a rooftop in the rain. The rain didn't stop. It fell in steady sheets now, soaking the rooftop until the brick walls seemed to melt into the night. Oliver sat still, fur slicked down, the kitten pressed close against him for warmth. His heart beat slow and heavy in his chest, matching the pulse of the city below, horns blaring, neon flickering, the sounds of life moving on, as if this moment, this fragile standoff, didn't matter at all. But it did. It mattered more than anything. Luna stood watching, her eyes sharp, unreadable, but her tail flicked in a slow, hypnotic rhythm, betraying some hidden storm. Razor hadn't moved. His paws dug into the wet bricks, claws flexing, but there was a pause in him now, an unspoken hesitation, like a predator sensing a shift in the hunt, unsure if it was time to strike or surrender. The violinist's melody drifted lower, the notes trembling like a breath held too long. Oliver's voice broke the silence, low and raw. You don't have to fight me, Razor. This isn't about you and me. It's about him. He nudged the kitten gently, a fragile little ball of fur shivering in the rain. Too small for this rooftop, too small for this war. Razor's eyes flashed, his teeth bared in a snarl, but then Luna spoke, her voice cutting through the night like silk over steel. Or maybe it's always been about me. Oliver's breath hitched. The kitten mewed softly, pressing tighter into his side. Luna's gaze locked onto Razor, a sharp glint in her eyes that dared him to speak the wrong word, make the wrong move. Tell me the truth, Razor, she said, her voice dangerously soft. Did you come here for me? Or to destroy him? The tension snapped like a whip crack, the unspoken question tearing through the air. Razor's tail lashed once. His jaw tightened, rain dripping from the scars along his cheek. He looked at Oliver, wet, scruffy, awkward Oliver, shivering in the cold, holding a stray kitten like it was a crown jewel, and for a moment, Something flickered behind those fierce yellow eyes. Not pity. Not respect exactly. Something older. A memory maybe. A ghost of something lost. "I came for what's mine," Razor said finally. His voice low and bitter. His eyes darted to Luna, then away, as if the truth burned too hot to hold. But maybe it never was. The violinist's bow trembled. The air seemed to crackle. Luna's whiskers twitched. Oliver barely dared to breathe. The kitten whimpered, and in that tiny sound, the rain seemed to hush just for a heartbeat. Then Luna moved. She stepped closer to Oliver, so close he could feel the heat of her body against the cold night air. She leaned down, her voice a soft, dangerous whisper in his ear. "Careful, Oliver. You think you've won tonight, but you've only just opened the door. And once it's open, some things won't ever go back in." Her breath was warm, her scent electric, and Oliver's heart nearly burst from the force of it. The world tilted, rain pouring harder, the kitten a small, fragile weight against his side. Luna's tail brushed his, soft as a promise, sharp as a warning. And then she turned, her silhouette slipping into the dark, melting into the alley like a shadow come alive. Razor followed a moment later. His steps slow, reluctant, each one leaving a wet mark on the brick until he, too, was gone. Oliver sat in the rain, breathless, the kitten mewing softly, the violinist's tune fading into the night like the echo of a dream. He didn't know what would come next. All he knew was that he wasn't the same cat who had come here tonight, clutching a daisy and a fragile hope. Now he had a choice to make. The rain slowed to a drizzle, soft and steady, as if the sky itself had exhaled after holding its breath too long. Oliver sat in the middle of the rooftop, fur soaked through, his breath rising in wisps of steam against the cool air. The kitten curled tighter into his side, a tiny shivering ball of life clinging to the warmth of another. The daisy lay forgotten, its petals torn by the storm, a quiet casualty of the night. Oliver's thoughts twisted in loops, tangled threads of Luna's words, Razor's growl, the violinist's haunting melody. It wasn't just about him. It never had been. Luna's warning echoed, sharp and soft at the same time. "Once the door is open, some things won't ever go back in." He stared out over the city, the neon glow casting long, flickering shadows across the bricks. Somewhere down there, Luna walked the dark alleys like a queen in exile, her steps silent but powerful. Razor too, out there in the gloom, licking his wounds, plotting his next move. And here he was, a scrappy tomcat who had stumbled into a world far bigger than he'd ever known, clutching a stray kitten like it was a lifeline. Oliver's ears twitched as a soft sound broke through the night, the violinist again, playing a slower, softer tune now. A lullaby maybe, or a requiem. The notes curled up into the air, weaving around Oliver and the kitten like a whispered promise that even in the coldest, darkest places, music still found a way to bloom. The kitten stirred, tiny paws flexing against Oliver's chest, and for the first time that night, Oliver let himself breathe. He looked down at the little one, at the wide green eyes staring up at him, eyes filled with trust, with hope, with that same fragile, stubborn spark that had driven Oliver here in the first place. He nudged the kitten gently, and the little one let out a soft, questioning mew. "Yeah," Oliver murmured, his voice barely a whisper, cracked and raw. "I don't know what we're doing either, but we're not giving up." His gaze drifted toward the edge of the rooftop, where the city stretched out in endless lights and secrets. Somewhere in that maze, Luna moved like a ghost. And he knew he wasn't done with her. Not by a long shot. The weight of the night pressed in again, but this time it felt like a challenge, not a burden. He would find her. He would find them. And he would figure out why the kitten mattered so much, why Razor had shown up, why Luna had let him leave, why the air itself seemed charged with something bigger, something dangerous, something unfinished. The rain stopped. The violin fell silent. And in that hush, Oliver felt it, the storm wasn't over. Oliver lunged, claws outstretched, a blur of desperate energy as the rain splashed against the alley walls. Razor snarled, dodging left, but Oliver's momentum carried him forward, a streak of fire and fury. They collided, teeth bared, claws scraping against fur and skin. The sound of the struggle filled the air, hissing, spitting, the sharp crack of claws on brick. The kitten cowered under the awning, wide-eyed, shivering, its tiny cries swallowed by the storm. Luna stood motionless, her tail flicking, watching with eyes that burned like twin flames. For a moment, just a breath, Oliver thought she might leap in, help him. But she didn't. Her gaze locked with his, and in that flash of lightning, Oliver saw it something soft, almost sad, buried deep in her eyes. But there was no time for questions. Razor pinned Oliver to the ground, breath hot and ragged against his face, the weight of the bigger cat crushing him. The air smelled of blood and rain, and Oliver's mind raced. This was it, wasn't it? His story ending in a dark alley under a stormy sky, with the kitten left unprotected. But then Luna moved. She didn't pounce. She slipped, like smoke, like a whisper of wind through cracks in the walls. Her paw grazed the kitten, almost too light to see, and the kitten flinched, but then something changed. A faint, silver glow shimmered for just a second around the kitten, like a flicker of moonlight caught in fur. Oliver's heart stuttered. What was that? Razor didn't notice. He pressed harder, teeth bared, ready for the kill. Oliver's vision blurred. He struggled, muscles screaming, but Razor was too strong, too fast. He could feel the life slipping out of him, the weight of the night pressing down. But in that dark moment, he heard it, the softest mew, the kitten crying out for him. Oliver's body surged with a strength he didn't know he had. With a final desperate shove, he twisted, claws catching Razor across the face, a deep, ragged cut that sent Razor reeling back with a howl of pain. Oliver scrambled to his feet, panting, blood dripping onto the wet ground. Razor's eyes glowed with rage, but something else flickered there too, fear. He hissed, backing away slowly into the shadows, melting into the rain-soaked darkness. Oliver stood trembling, the kitten pressed tight against his leg. He looked up and Luna was gone. Just the faintest scent of her lingering in the air, like the memory of a dream you couldn't quite hold on to. The kitten nudged Oliver's paw with a tiny, grateful purr, and Oliver lowered his head to nuzzle the little one, heart pounding, breath ragged. But his mind raced. What was Luna doing with the kitten? Why that glow? And why did it feel like Razor wasn't the real threat? The rain eased into a gentle drizzle. The city hummed quietly, oblivious. And in the stillness, Oliver knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The rain dripped from rooftops, puddles forming mirrors in the streetlights, casting a fractured reflection of the world of Oliver standing, battered and panting, the kitten pressed against his side, tiny chest rising and falling with each shaky breath. His paws trembled. The adrenaline still surged through his veins, but now it was mingled with something else. Question. Luna was gone. Razor had slithered back into the shadows. And Oliver was left in the cold with a fragile life depending on him, and no idea why it mattered so much. The kitten mewed, its voice small but insistent, like a spark refusing to go out. Oliver curled his tail around it protectively, staring into the darkness where Luna had vanished. That glow, that silver shimmer, had felt like something more, something ancient, almost magic. Was the kitten special? Was Luna protecting it? Or using it for something else entirely? Oliver shook his head, water flying from his whiskers. He couldn't think straight. The city felt like it was holding a secret he wasn't supposed to know, and Luna was right in the middle of it. But there wasn't time for questions. Not now. The kitten whimpered again, and Oliver leaned down, nose to fur, heart thudding. He had to move, find shelter, figure out what Luna wanted, why she had left him alone with this tiny, helpless life. A sharp sound echoed in the distance. Claws on concrete. Oliver's ears shot up. And then he saw it. On the wall, scrawled in faded red paint, barely visible in the dim light, a single word. Run. Oliver's pulse spiked. His gaze darted up the fire escape, scanning the windows. He could feel it now, the weight of unseen eyes watching. The violin's tune started again, soft, almost haunting, as if someone was playing for ghosts. Oliver's breath caught. He looked down at the kitten. Its eyes were glowing. Just for a second, a faint, silvery shimmer gone in a blink. But Oliver knew what he saw. His heart hammered in his chest. Luna knew. Razor knew. And now, so did he. The kitten wasn't just a kitten. It was a secret. Curse. Oliver wrapped his body around the kitten, shielding it from the rain, the wind, the weight of the city pressing down. His claws flexed in the wet ground, muscles coiled. Whatever Luna was planning, whatever Razor wanted, he wasn't going to let them have it. Not tonight. Not ever. And as the violin's haunting melody echoed through the empty streets, Oliver whispered under his breath, soft, fierce, a promise. I don't care how many lives I have left. I'll use them all for you. Oliver's breath hitched in the cold night air as he crouched beneath a flickering street lamp. The kitten nestled safely against his chest. The silvery glow pulsed faintly like a heartbeat only he could hear. The city felt alive, whispering secrets in the wind. But for once, Oliver wasn't afraid. Luna's words echoed in his mind. Not every heart is yours to save. But now he knew the heart he wanted to save was right here, fragile and fierce, beating next to his own. A shadow moved at the alley's edge. Razor, no longer just a threat, but a question, a challenge, a darkness Oliver had to face. His eyes gleamed with grudging respect. You're stronger than I thought, Oliver. But this isn't over. Oliver met his gaze steadily. Claws still sharp, spirit unbroken. This kitten, this secret, it's mine to protect. And I'm not afraid to fight for it. From the shadows, Luna reappeared, her silver fur shimmering, eyes softer, almost vulnerable. She stepped forward, tail twitching thoughtfully. Maybe. Some hearts are worth chasing, even if they belong to others. Oliver's chest swelled. The kitten purred softly, and for a fleeting moment, the three of them stood in the rain-soaked silence, enemies, allies, and something more tangled between. The violin's melody rose, haunting and beautiful, as the camera pulled back, showing the city skyline, shimmering with promise and peril. Oliver whispered to the kitten, "We're just getting started." And with that, the night swallowed their figures, leaving only the echo of a meow and the lingering warmth of a bond forged in shadows and hope.